Good evening, everybody. Oh, hello there.
Hi, am I the only one?
No, we have lots of people, but they're
Okay.
they're remaining anonymous for some reason.
Oh,
Hopefully,
okay.
hopefully they're not remaining anonymous.
Well, maybe because you just signed on. I'm still working on my laptop to get it to work.
Oh, so you're on your phone?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Hi, Robin.
There. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Hi, Bev.
Hi there.
Oh, it's been a while. How you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. We were in California.
I know.
I was in the meeting last week, but I stayed mute because I didn't look so hot.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you would have been welcome in any event, but I'm glad you had a good time. It was your birthday, wasn't it?
No, that's income tax day. It was Carol's. It was Carol's birthday.
Oh, it was Carol's birthday. Excuse
Yeah.
me. I got
Mhm.
confused.
Yep.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi, Jonathan. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm okay. Thank you.
Good, good, good. And Walter, hi, good evening, Walter.
Hello, brother.
Carol, happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you very much.
You don't look any older, you look younger.
Amazing. Yeah, I wish.
Amy, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. Glenn is trying to connect from a different state. He's
All
in
right.
Texas.
Where is he? In Texas?
Yes.
Sorry.
Visiting the kids?
Actually, he did today. Yes.
Oh, good, good, good. I saw Walter and now he vanished. Oh, there you are. Hey, Walter. I mean,
Hello.
Kevin, excuse me. Kevin, how are you?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Very well, thank God. You got good reception, Kevin.
Oh, cool. I'm in the best spot in the house.
All right, good.
Hello. Oh, here I am.
Here you are. Another birthday girl. How are you, Glad?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm so sorry. I missed your meeting this morning.
Well, you were missed, but there's always next time.
Yes, I
You s-
promise next time.
You sent your representative.
I did. And he gave me a full report.
Yeah, he did you proud. What did he
Well
tell you?
done.
What did he tell you? Everybody was sleeping?
No, he told you I was sleeping.
Oh,
Is that right?
yes, he did. He said that you didn't sleep very much last night.
I did. I didn't. I've been having tough nights, but that's okay. God is still here.
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem.
All right, so
I'm here. I just don't know how
who's
to
this?
make
It sounds like Devorah Tova.
it is. So I can hear you. That's all that's important.
Yeah, but some reason I do better when I see you.
Well, I don't. Maybe when Bert gets up, he'll do it. No, Bert.
Let's see. Is Sheila here?
Yes, I am.
Oh, there you are, right in front of me. Hi, Sheila.
I was wondering why you were ignoring me.
I'm sorry. I had something covering your spot. I'm not capable of ignoring you, but I still want to know. Oh, Devar Tova and Borok, you don't have your screen turned on.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay, I'll leave that to you. In the meantime,
Glenn, sorry, Glenn says he can see you, but he's
All
still
right.
trying to figure it out.
All right, fair enough.
This way.
Can you hear me, Amy?
Oh,
I hear you. Who is that?
Oh, okay.
Is that Glenn?
That's me. I don't
Okay, hey,
see
Glenn.
myself in the picture, but
It's not hot enough in Georgia. You had to go to Texas to really.
exactly, yeah.
Okay, good. Good.
Well, come on over to Arizona.
It's true.
Wow.
How hot is it in Arizona right now?
About 3 o'clock it was 113, which means it's probably 115 or higher now.
Wow.
Yeah.
But what do people in Arizona say when they tell you it's 113? What's the very next sentence?
Dry heat.
Exactly.
No, not
It's a
anymore.
dry heat. It's not bad at all.
Actually, not anymore.
So was an oven.
Yeah.
All right, my dear friends. Who would like to begin? Does anybody have any questions, any comments, any criticisms, any insights, any aha moments? or need any clarification from last week, or you want to bring in any subjects not related to what we're talking about here, this is the time to do it. Amy, your hand goes up.
Yes, I actually read Viktor Frankl's Say Yes to Life because I can't get the other book yet, but I'm waiting for it. Very, very inspiring, actually.
Oh, good. I'm so glad you got it. I'm surprised that the other one is not available, Man's Search for Meaning.
Well, I'm up here in the rural Georgia mountains, as you know, and I'm looking to either to get it on loan or to read it, via Kindle, and it's in process. So
All right. I'm sure you'll figure it out. Anya, thank you for joining us. How are you, Anya?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Absolutely, of course. All right, so nobody has anything that they want to discuss? If that's the case, oh, there's Glenn. Hey, Glenn.
Hey.
Oh, hey, you done?
Rabbi, so I said to you that I thought that all this was coming towards balance, and you disagreed.
I'm sorry, say it again, louder.
To me, it seems that we're striving for a balance between what's on one side and what's on the other.
Oh, yeah, we talked about this briefly on Monday at the other class, right?
Yeah, but you said that wasn't it, unless
Right.
I didn't hear right, which is possible.
So Devar Tova made the point that she felt that what we were leading to with this conversation we're having over 8 weeks is that somehow we're supposed to take all these character traits and put them in some type of balance. And that's not the case. We're not trying to balance. In a couple of cases, in a couple of specific circumstances, we are. But what we're trying to learn is what is appropriate in a given situation. Because sometimes a whole lot of one thing is important. Sometimes it's important to display a lot of gevura, a lot of discipline, restraint, etc., like a disproportionate amount. Sometimes it's required. Other times, pure love or chesed is required. So we're not looking to create balance. We're not looking to create gray. We're looking to create beautiful colors. And the way we create beautiful colors is by adding from the entire palette, from the entire 10 different sphirot, adding, subtracting different measurements of each. Because they're fluid, and as we go through the day, things change, our moods change, our circumstances change. So therefore, what we're trying to achieve is to know what's appropriate in every given situation. So some people say, well, I'm this type of person, or I'm that type of person. And what Kabbalah is challenging you to do is to not take that as gospel. Rather, we're all pliable, we're all malleable, and to add whatever ingredient is missing in a given situation. So we started by talking about the come from, the point of the whole thing, which is to align all these soul powers with our desires in life, with what it is that we want, or more specifically, what it is we're wanted for, what we're needed for. And then we got into these 3 intellectual faculties, and we discussed them at length. And then over the last couple of weeks, we went on to discuss the 3 emotional attributes, the chesed, which is love, the gevura, which is restraint, and the tiferet, which is harmony between those two. Now, in discussing them, we realize that it's easier said than done. Last week's class on anger management, it's very easy to identify these things. It's not so easy to deal with them. So while we can make broad statements and say that love is about what you're attracted to, and restraint or discipline or withholding is about what you're repulsed by. Well, these are blanket statements, but they don't fit in everyday life. We have to know what to mix together. The artist has to know exactly from the palette what is he going to dip his brush in order to make the most beautiful painting. And that's what each one of us wants. We want to make the most beautiful painting possible. So yes, we all want to be loving, but it's 100% love is not necessarily called for in a given situation. Sometimes we have to exhibit restraint. Sometimes we have to do more than that. Sometimes we have to show absolute severity in a situation. Those situations do come up in life. So while we are looking to harmonize, and while we are looking to add what's missing in a situation, I can't say that we're looking for balance. Make sense, Devorah Tobo? Any other questions? Okay. God created the world through love, through loving kindness. That was his whole raison d'etre, his whole purpose. He did it from love. But even in the case of God, he had to withhold some of his love to create space so that we could exist in his world. Because if it was only love, 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 it would not have gone so well. We would have become totally overwhelmed with his love. So instead, he restricted his love and gave each aspect of creation just enough of his life force in order to sustain whatever that is. When we were standing at Mount Sinai receiving the 10 Commandments, there were 3 million people there. God said the first 2 commandments, and after the second commandment, the people were plotzing. They were absolutely, they thought they were going to expire. They said to Moses, we feel like our souls are leaving our bodies. We're going to expire. It feels like the end of our life because we're so overwhelmed with the godliness. They said, please Moses, act as the ambassador and listen to these other 8 commandments and then tell us what they are, because otherwise we're just going to expire. So when you have too much love, too much giving with no restraint, the consequence isn't always good. Make sense? But we are commanded to love others. That's an absolute imperative, which means that we have to find a way to internalize the thoughts that will nurture loving feelings. And the way we do that, as we said, is to focus on the divine image in other people. Just like it's a natural tendency for us to view our own actions in a kindly way because we see them through the context of our own inherent worth. We know how worthy we are because we've all internalized the fact that we are created in God's image. It's not so easy to see that divine image in other people. Nonetheless, we're commanded to look for that. So, and we're also told that even when the feeling is lacking, even when the feeling of love is lacking, we must act in ways that are consistent with that love. To which I'm going to just add the postscript, which is not easier said than done. You know, like the one that swallows the sword in the circus says, "Don't try this at home, kids." Like this is difficult stuff. Nonetheless, we're required to do it. It's interesting because when a Jew wakes up in the morning, he says a series of blessings. And after the blessings, before he begins his prayers, his morning prayers, he makes a statement. It's required. It's in the Code of Jewish Law that we have to make the following statement. I'm going to read you from not the Hebrew prayer book, but the English prayer book. And this is what we're supposed to say. This is what we're required to say according to the Code of Jewish Law. We're supposed to say, I hereby take upon myself the mitzvah, the commandment, to love your fellow man as yourself. Mm-hmm. So before we even say the first prayer, we're commanded to say that first. Again, easier said than done. Whereas the rest of the prayer book, for the most part, doesn't have any instructions. This particular thing that I just read, I hereby take upon myself the commandment to love your fellow man as yourself. This one comes with an instruction. And what is the instruction? The instruction is, it is proper to recite the following paragraph before prayer. And then we say, I hereby take upon myself the commandment, love your fellow man as yourself. Why does it have to say that it's proper to recite this paragraph before prayer? Because it doesn't come naturally to us, because we don't want to be liars, we don't want to be hypocrites, and we know how difficult this commandment is, to love your fellow as yourself. There was as a brief aside, there was a very famous and pious rabbi who would say, rather than say, I hereby take upon myself the commandment, love your fellow man as yourself, he would say, it is proper to recite the following paragraph. I hereby take upon myself the commandment to love your fellow man as yourself. He would repeat the instruction because he knew that this was not something that he really believed that he was capable of doing. So why am I telling you this? Because it's really hard. And yet it's the basis of Judaism, and I believe it's a fundamental tenet in Christianity as well. So good luck, folks, is what I'm saying. But nonetheless, this is what we need to aspire for. In addition to loving kindness, last week, we talked about severity. We talked about discipline called gvura. And we said that it has such a tendency to turn into anger that we have to sweeten it to ensure that it acts correctly. We have to sweeten the gvura. We have to sweeten the tendency to be harsh. And that is helped along by the fact that if we have a generally joyful perspective in life, it mitigates the harshness. So we talked about how to mitigate the harshness with our understanding, with our brain. We talked about how to turn it against itself, how to turn the harshness against itself. And we talked about sweetening it with the tiferet, with generating compassion for another. So sometimes we have to criticize. And when we do, it has to come from a stance of love and appreciation of the person being rebuked. If you are not loving the person you're about to rebuke, bite your tongue, because I promise you it's not going to end well. And one also has to have a firm belief that they're capable of improvement. So beginning today, right now, we're going to focus on how to move our intellect and our emotions into action. Again, we started with intellect, and when we looked at the chart, we made the comment that the intellect has to be in charge of the emotions. Otherwise, we end up with a disastrous life. When the emotions are telling the intellect what's true, it never ends up well for the human. So the intellect has to control the emotions. All right, it sounds good, but how do you do it? Or even when it comes to the emotions, like it's not advisable when somebody's really angry to say, gee, I wouldn't be too angry if I were you. I mean, that generally doesn't work out well for the one giving that advice. So we have intellect, below that we have emotions, and both of them are very difficult to access. Now, over this evening, as well as the next 2 weeks, we're going to be dealing with what's below the emotions, and that is our behaviors. So tonight we're speaking about the basics of our behavior, because as we will see, we stand a much better chance of using our behaviors to affect our emotion and intellect than by using the intellect itself. So I want to introduce you to the twin soul powers of behavior. In Hebrew, they're called Netzach and Hod. And we'll define them in a minute. Don't worry, you don't have to write it down. You don't have to remember it. You're not getting tested on it. If you ever get on Jeopardy, it's not going to be one of the questions, so don't worry about it. The point is that these two behaviors, which we're about to get into, can work together to actualize the emotions and the intellect. So rather than worrying about how am I going to get that flash of wisdom, how am I going to get that place of internalizing, how am I going to get to that place of loving my fellow man as myself, how am I going to get there? we're going to do it through these behaviors. So together, these two behaviors that we're going to discuss actualize chesed and gevura, actualize loving kindness and restraint. Any questions? Okay, what is Netzach? Netzach is a sense of initiative. Netzach is persistence. It shows up as self-confidence. That's how it looks in us humans. When you have Netzach, you're brimming with confidence. To function properly, we have to rid ourselves of self-defeating behavior. And many of us suffer from poor self-esteem, lack of self-confidence. And the first step to becoming healthy, the first step to becoming more spiritually evolved, is to have a healthy sense of self. Not too healthy, but healthy. We'll be speaking more about this. Now, when our sense of confidence is corrupted, as all of these soul powers tend to get in our lives, we find ourselves, when things don't go our way, wanting to take revenge against others. That's how it shows up in life. So that's the thumbnail sketch of Netzach. Let's talk about the opposite of Netzach, or that is what lies on the opposite side of Netzach, and that's something called Hod in Hebrew. What is Hod? Hod is a sense of acknowledgement. Hod is gratitude. It's being grateful. It's being humble. It's yielding to the other. When Hod becomes corrupted, when our sense of gratitude becomes corrupted, it shows up as bearing a grudge. So if you see that you bear a grudge towards others, you'll probably be able to trace it back to the fact that your Hod, your gratitude, is not working optimally. And for all of us, we all get to places where these various soul powers are not operating optimally. Nothing to be ashamed of. So, Netzach and Hod. Persistence, endurance, confidence, humility, gratitude, acknowledgement. They're both branches of, on the one hand, the loving kindness, on the other hand, the discipline, restraint, and severity. In fact, they actually share some of the same characteristics. But again, the loving kindness and the restraint are emotional attributes, whereas Netzach and Hod, again, persistence and acknowledgement are action-oriented. So Netzach is associated with the power to overcome the external and the internal obstacles that prevent us from reaching our objectives and our goals. Okay? Yeah? Netzach is endurance. Netzach is being committed and dedicated to the goals that you've set. It's having the persistence, it's having the tenacity to see something through all the way to the end. For example, a truly great athlete has tremendous Netzach. He or she is fiercely competitive. They cannot tolerate losing. They're driven to succeed, to excel, to wipe out their opponents. In fact, the greater the competitive drive, the more likely that they're going to succeed. We see this show up in business also. Many successful business people are highly ambitious and they're competitive by nature. They have to succeed. They have to win. They have to be the best. They have to make the most money. Nothing's going to stand in their way. So Netzach, the soul power of Netzach, is about being committed, dedicated, and ambitious. I am not saying that in this example of the athlete or the businessman that this is ideal, that we should be striving for these things. I'm just trying to exemplify what Netzach is when you take it all the way. It could be very healthy to take it all the way. I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying that ultimately it's all about being committed, dedicated, and ambitious. Bottom line, it's about getting the job done. It's about getting the job done. So if you look in your own life and you see a lot of projects that get started that don't get finished, that ostensibly are important to you, it's time to do a check on your netzach, on your ability to follow through. Because one who has a strong sense of netzach will be persistent, and they are going to persevere until the end. Just what it is. If you break down the word netzach from the Hebrew, you have two words. One of them is called nitzachon. Nitzachon literally means victory. And you have nitziut, which is endurance. Victory and endurance. Achieving victory requires persistence and tenacity, therefore endurance. And even though most of us are not athletes and most of us are not business titans or moguls, we do need to develop our netzach. So the quality.
You can I interrupt you?
Yes, please.
So you can apply this in your everyday life. I mean, for me, it's with work and certain things come up and I've got to follow it through and I've got to make sure. And sometimes it's difficult to do, but my word is the word you use, tenacity. And
that's it.
Even in the smaller things, it's not just in the big things.
For sure. It's in our everyday lives.
Yeah.
It's our ability to follow through with what we said we're going to do, not just the big stuff.
Right. Thank you.
The quality of your netzach, the quality of your tenacity, is dependent upon the degree of your confidence. The confidence that you have that you are doing the right thing. If you don't have any doubts about that, then you stand a very good chance of succeeding about what you're doing. In other words, at that moment, when you realize that everything is aligned for you, that you're doing the right thing, then you're fulfilling what we talked about the first week of what you are needed for. It bears repeating. We talked about the fact that we start with something above intellect called desire. And the question was, what is your life's desire? What is your life's will? And we talked about the fact, and this also ties in, Amy, to what Viktor Frankl said in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, when he said, to paraphrase, a man can accomplish any how if he has a sufficient why. So when somebody has a sufficient why, and if that why that they have is something that benefits others, if it's something they are needed for, chances are they're going to succeed. The only thing that's missing from that paradigm that I described is a healthy sense of self, which we'll get into a few moments. Any comments before we go on?
Well, the thing that puzzles me is that I see all of this. I don't see if you're in a negative frame of mind and wanting to accomplish something. That doesn't describe Netzach, right? Is it?
Yeah, it's very hard to have Netzach if you're feeling like a schlemazel.
Right. Okay. So this is in a positive frame of mind.
the basis of beginning everything comes with a positive frame of mind. This is what we need to be working on more than anything else, is to try to live every moment in a zippity-doo-dah type of way. That's where it comes from. It comes from recognizing that we are created in the divine image, that God has made us partners in the creation, that our job is to turn this jungle into a garden. When we're coming from that, and then when we apply our own aptitude to things, then there's no room for negativity. I won't say there's no room for it. Everybody needs a little negativity and self-indulgence every now and then. But as we've discussed, Torah is very clear that melancholy, depression, sadness, there's no profit in any of those things. I know that flies in the face of today's modern therapy, but I'm telling you from a Torah perspective, there's just no room for that stuff. So, yes, Devar Torah.
I just find as I age, it gets easier.
Say again?
I find that as I age, that gets easier. The gratitude, even though I am a competitive person, especially within my family, it just, I want it all to be good. So I try to look for it that way, because I mean, in all reality, I'm in, if we're segmenting, I'm in probably the last segment, even if it goes to 120. So I guess because I want it to all be nicer, I see it that way. I'm just so grateful.
So are you saying that it took you all these years to get to this place, that you didn't feel this way
No,
when you
I'm
were
just
younger?
saying it's easy. No, well, I'm sure I wasn't in this place at different times in my life. But thank God I got through that. And I am where I am now. And I find that it is easier. I don't bear resentment with anything. And I can just walk away from things if I need to. It's not worth it to be down about anything. It's just not worth it.
Well, you've got a few years on me, but I can tell you just anecdotally from my own experience, I relate to what you're saying about not sweating the small stuffs. Things that used to disturb me just roll off my back these days. So maybe, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. But
Carol,
I
did
also
you?
have more gratitude because it expands, it just keeps going out and out.
Very good. Carol, did you want to say something? I wasn't sure.
No, but I totally agree. Gratitude gets easier and easier as you get older.
I agree.
For me.
Yeah. It's much easier to let things go.
Right.
And don't sweat the small stuff. It's just not worth it.
No.
I'd like to, if I can just take a minute to tell a story, I can maybe explain why I brought up this part about the negative. I had a very, very good friend many years ago. We were teenagers, and she got married. This is very in a nutshell. She got married and didn't invite me to the wedding. And I held a grudge for a very long time. I was very angry with her. And then, put her out of my mind. And I got a letter from her, maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago or so. And she explained her entire life, what she had been through and why she hadn't invited me to her wedding, and how her life had been. And I was sorry that I hadn't answered her. However, I found a letter that I had written to answer her, and I never sent it. And it was both letters were so warm and loving and so full of friendship and life and family. And I just felt, I tried to get in touch with her. and I read an obituary that she had died a couple of years ago. And I've been walking around with this very sad feeling of incompletion, of not being able to make this up and make it good again, and make it real between us. You know, and Norman and I were talking about, well, you know, we hope she hears us in heaven, you know. And it's like, I hate that it's too late. And I want to do something, but there's nothing to do.
Glad that is a story. That's a story to make movies out of.
I talked to her.
It's like An Affair to Remember with Cary Grant and Deborah Carr. Sorry, that's where I go with these things. My sister's shaking her head.
When did you see that movie?
Oh, he did when he was much younger. I've seen it within the last year. It's a wonderful movie. I love that movie.
Yes, it is.
What movie is it?
It is a lovely movie. Yeah.
Anyway, Glad, I don't know what to do with what you said. It's so poignant and it applies to all of us. And I think the takeaway, and I'm sorry for your pain, it's obviously very real for you, but I think that there's something very important for all of us, which is seize the moment, which is don't wait till tomorrow for something that you can do today, especially when it comes to these kinds of relationships, that it's important to express yourself.
Right.
And I'm not saying that we are all at the level of maturity, or that any of us, myself included, are at the level of maturity where when somebody steps on your toe, you can say, oh, that's okay, here's my other toe. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that, you know, to be mindful and to do our best in the situation.
Yeah.
I have 1,000 questions about your story, but we could spend all night on that. So we'll come back to that.
Tomorrow.
Okay, fair enough. Wow, that was incredible, Glad.
Yeah, sorry to put a downer on it, but I felt like this had to be said, and otherwise I couldn't be here.
All right, so the fundamental that we want to focus on when it comes to Netzach is, even in mundane areas, to recognize the need to set goals, whether you're 22 or 92, to set goals. And even if it's on the level of a to-do list of what it is that you plan to do in a day, to bring the Netzach into your to-do list. So you take on a goal, you make a resolution. December 31st, you call LA Fitness and you spend $400 on gym membership. They can tell you that by February 15th, you'll never be back. You fizzle out. We don't follow through. So I encourage all of you, all of us, to think about a time when you decided to do something, but then you didn't follow through. And the question I'm asking is, why didn't you follow through? And most of the time, we don't follow through because either something gets in the way, either something outside of yourself or some kind of conflict, or something inside of you. And that something inside of you is basically usually old bad habits. So what is Netzach? Netzach is standing up to those things that get in the way, to overcoming them and seeing your goals through.
What happens when you try to achieve your goal and you're unsuccessful time and time and time again? It's hard not to get depressed or discouraged, and stay focused. And then you have all these other conflicting aspects in your life and other responsibilities, at least for me. And I have to prioritize, what's most important. So I think sometimes things get in the way of achieving my goals.
So in life, as opposed to sitting here on Zoom and teaching theory, life becomes a little dicier than what we're talking about, because there's real things competing for your time and your attention. And it's not a level playing field, meaning that some of us have tremendous amount of obstacles to overcome just to get to a steady place. And some of us have an easier time. It's just what it is. Why it is, we don't know. But all we can do is trust the fact that God knows exactly why you were dealt the hand that you were dealt. And it's not a permanent hand. It's a hand that we have to play to the best of our ability. And what's true today may not be tomorrow. But still, I'm speaking in platitudes. So, Ellen, did you want to get in this?
May I?
Please.
And because Cindy, what I heard from you, and Jonathan, correct me, I heard you as far as setting new goals, or you're not fulfilling your goals. I mean, then set new goals, I would say. But I think what's important here with Netzach, am I saying it right?
Yeah.
That you made the statement of developing Netzach is dependent upon having the confidence that I am doing the right thing. And so to me, that ties into the goal, Cindy, in the fact that I know who and what I am and why I am here on this earth and what I am endowed to create and accomplish. And so my goals need to be centered around that. Those are the big lofty goals, but even the day-to-day goals are one foot in front of the other to get something accomplished. I don't know if that makes sense to you, Cindy, and Jonathan, embellish it or tell me that I'm
I think there's tremendous value in what you're saying, but we also have to acknowledge that some people have to find a parking space so they can get a manicure that day. Other people are dealing with money issues, health issues, children issues, love issues, all at the same time, where everything feels scarce. So when we apply these principles to somebody in that position, as opposed to people who don't have the adversity in their life, it looks a lot different. At the same time, what you're saying holds true. It still comes down to personal attitude. It still comes down to what can I do in this situation to make the most of it? Because obviously giving up is not an option, especially when you have commitments to other people. Anybody else want to comment on this? I mean, all of us have lived. Whether you're in your 20s or your 90s, we've all lived, and this is a real issue that we're talking about. That this is great theory that we're discussing, but how do we deal with real life? You know, there was
life goes in cycles. And I can think back when I was in my 30s, life wasn't so wonderful. I had 2 sick parents. You've got to get through it somehow. And I mean, you know, eventually things changed and life changed. But there's times when in your life you have to live through something that is not so pleasant.
So Sheila, what's your advice, Sheila, for somebody who's right in the midst of it?
Well, I can't give advice to other people. I can only say what happened to me. Well, first of all, I think all of you know I was a war baby and I didn't know anything but London Blitz when I was born at the very beginning of the war, and I only knew war until I was 6 years old. That sort of colors things for the rest of your life if you've been through that, because you know that it's going to get better. In our case, it got better. I've always been an optimist and I've always been a glass half full person. So I've always looked for something that is going to make it better in some way or other. I'm always hopeful that something is going to help me improve what I'm going through.
That's great, Sheila. Thank you.
I
Who
want
else?
to go out to lunch with Sheila, but for myself, sometimes I have to just like reconnoiter on what I'm going for. And especially if I just can't get there, maybe I need to take another street. It may be what I think I want or what I think I need, but it isn't what I need. And I keep getting, I call it a little potch each time. It gets a little for myself. I'll do something and there's a niche, but I'll keep at it and it gets a little harder. And I just believe it's God, the Father, who's throwing the potch is getting harder each time. So finally, that's really not the way to go. Just reverse and go somewhere else.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
But,
Walter, do you have any insight for us?
No, I'm just learning the lesson that when you're in the thick of it, I've learned this from my children. You move back home to your parents.
Oh, that it were that easy. And also, I don't like doing this, but writing helps.
Yes.
I'm always
Yeah, I
afraid,
forgot
what if
that.
I die and they find it and I can't explain what I really meant?
I forgot that. I used to sit sometimes in the middle of the night when I would wake up with a problem on my mind. I would sit and write it all out. And that helped a lot.
It does.
Yeah.
All right, so I just want to acknowledge for anybody who's going through life situations that are beyond the what we think is normal. But then again, we don't really know what's going on with anybody else anyway. Even on this call, we don't know what anyone else's issues are. So I guess number one is to be sensitive to the fact that everybody has their stuff.
Absolutely.
And there's an expression, there's a story in Yiddish that comes from the Yiddish that everybody has their own pekele. What is a pekel? A pekel is a suitcase. Everybody has a suitcase full of their own tsuras, full of their own problems. And everybody takes their suitcases and puts them in the middle of the floor
You'll take it
for the
back.
opportunity to take anyone else's package of troubles, and everybody takes back their own. So all I can tell you is one thing that's very, very helpful is to have a sense of self with a reasonable expectation that includes a reasonable expectation that you have what it takes to get through whatever it is that you're facing. And certainly not without God. Because everything that we deal with in life, every nisayon, every challenge that we deal with in life, there's two components involved. One of them is called bitachon, and the other is called hishtadlut. Bitachon means trust in God. Hishtadlut means your own personal effort. And each of us needs to put forth the appropriate effort as well as the appropriate trust in God. The appropriate trust in God, by the way, you can take away the word appropriate. It's full-on trust in God. But just like the story that we all know, I'm sure everybody knows about the man with the flood, and they send the lifeboat and they send the paramedics, and he says, no, God will provide. And they send a helicopter and he refused to take it and he drowns. Everyone knows the story?
Yeah.
Says, why didn't you take the rope from the helicopter? Because God said he would provide. Yeah, you nincompoop. But you have to do for
Well,
yourself.
I heard it. He gets to heaven and he says to God, I've been so righteous all my life. I did this, I did that. Why didn't you help me? He said, what are you talking? I sent a helicopter. I sent the EMTs. I sent everything. Yet, but I had him, for a change, I clogged the garbage disposal and I forgot how to fix it. And I knew there was a way. So I went to the hardware store and they told me again what to do. I had asked God, God, please help me. I know I screwed up again. I'll try not to do the same thing. And it works. But I don't do anything without asking God. So far, so good.
All right, Baruch Hashem, thank God. By the way, you know what the difference is between a shlemiel, a shlemazel, and a nudnik? This is very important, especially if you're not Jewish. You've heard of Schlemiel and Schlemazel, right? There was a show on in the 1970s called Laverne and Shirley. Remember? Schlemiel, Schlemazel. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to tell you how to distinguish these three terms. All right, ready? A Schlemiel is the one who spills the soup on the Schlemazel. Okay? And what is the Nudnik? The Nudnik is the one who says, so what kind of soup was it? Right. So that's the Yiddish language lesson for the evening. Getting back to our topic. Let's say, for example, that you recognize that a husband recognizes that he needs to be more loving towards his wife. He needs more chesed in his life. How is he going to exhibit that love? Again, dealing with the love, dealing with the loving kindness is way up there. It's something emotional. How do we deal with it? We do, and what we're learning tonight is we do it through action. So when a husband reaches the conclusion that he needs to be more loving towards his wife, what is he going to do? He makes a decision. What is that decision? That he's going to do something for her every week to demonstrate the love in an actionable sort of way. So maybe one week he will bring her flowers, and maybe the next week he'll take her to a restaurant that she likes. Maybe then he'll buy her perfume. That's the plan. The question is, after a few weeks, will he continue to follow through with his conviction, or will it fizzle out with a bunch of excuses? The answer to that question comes to do with how strong his netzach is. Make sense?
Shabbos.
Yeah.
So the netzach complements the chesed. It also has to complement the gevura. What do I mean? I overspend. I rack up huge credit card bills. I get into huge debt. I recognize that I need more financial discipline. Will I have the determination to follow through? That requires netzach. So we say gevura is required. You have to hold on to what you have. You can't allow yourself to spend. But again, that's an emotion. How do you deal with it? You deal with it through netzach. Your child misbehaves. And because you love your child, you know you need to discipline him. So will you follow through with what you know you have to do? Or will you be lazy and let whatever that negative behavior is go undisciplined? Knowing it's unhealthy. Knowing it sends your kid mixed messages. So these are all examples where netzach is required. And each one of these examples, we have these examples in our own lives. Any questions before we move on?
No, I'm confused. The fact that I need to love my wife more, I need to take her places, buy her things, and then I need for moral discipline not to spend money. The fact that then I quit loving my wife because I run out of money. So the fact that ultimately I have to choose between Natsai and Gomorrah, and the fact that I'm all confused about it all. So, of course, that's because I live in South Georgia.
Walter, the simple answer is a home equity line of credit.
Yeah.
If you have an arm, hugs work.
Okay.
Okay, but your point is well taken, and I thank you for your dry and droll humor. Keep it coming. So think about a time when you decided to do something and you did follow through. Why did you follow through? we tend to follow through when we believe deeply in what it is that we need to do.
Yeah.
The more we believe in the virtue of whatever that is, the more invested we will be in seeing it through, no matter what the obstacles are. For example, let us turn to Scripture. Let us turn to text 2 on page 148. Now, you all know the story of the Akedah. You all know the story of the binding of Isaac. Everybody's familiar with that story. But within Judaism, there's a body of Torah called Midrash, which has stories that, if you're not familiar with, are like really fascinating. So I want to read you one such story about the binding, about the preparation for the binding of Isaac. Again, what are we talking about in the binding of Isaac? We're talking about God tells Abraham to sacrifice his only son as a test of loyalty. And he does what he's requested to do. And at the last minute, of course, God stops Abraham and says, now I know you're loyal to me. Here's what the Midrash says about the steps that led up to that event. It says, on the third day, Abraham looked up and saw the place from afar, the place where he was supposed to bind Isaac. And the place was, by the way, the Har HaBayit, the Temple Mount. That was it in Jerusalem. On their way to the mountain, Har Moriah, Mount Moriah, their path was blocked by a big river. Undeterred, Abraham immediately waded into the river until the water came up to his knees. He told the lads accompanying him to follow him. Who were the lads accompanying him for extra credit? Anybody?
His son.
His son Isaac. Who else? Two others. Ishmael, very good.
And Eliezer.
Eliezer, very good. His servant Eliezer. Devorah Tova, you get to go into the bonus round.
Oh.
So he told the lads accompanying him to follow him, and they also waded into the river. Halfway through the river, the water was up to his neck. At that moment, Abraham raises his eyes to heaven and said, Master of the worlds, you appeared to me. You told me to offer up my son Isaac before you. I didn't protest. Here I am, occupied with fulfilling your command. But the water has almost reached to my soul. If I or my son Isaac should die, who is going to fulfill your words? The Holy One, blessed be he, replied, by your life, through you, my name will be unified in the world. Immediately, the river dried up and they stood on dry land. By the way, the whole river scene was an illusion, but the story works. When does the obstacle disappear in this story? It's when Abraham displays Netzach. It's when he says to God, I'm doing exactly what you said. Give me a break. I'm going through with this no matter what. And if you need to take my life away, it doesn't make any sense to me, but I am going forward. So when Abraham displays the Netzach, that's when the river disappears. That's when the obstacle disappears. And this applies so well to our own lives. Because so many times we have obstacles, we have challenges, we have struggles that look so big. And we can ask the question philosophically, why does God give us a challenge that looks to us to be too big? To which we often say, God doesn't give anybody a challenge that's too big for them. Whatever what's the expression? The load of the camel, the load of the camel is commensurate with his strength. The same thing. The challenge that we have is commensurate with our ability to break through that challenge. So now the question becomes, What is the purpose of a challenge? What is the purpose of a struggle in life? Why do some people have huge struggles? All of us have struggles. What's the purpose of that struggle? Is it so God can find out if we're strong enough? Of course not. God already knows what we're capable of. The purpose of the struggle is for us to know what we're capable of. That's the gift in the struggle. How do you feel about what I just said? Everybody with me on that?
Yeah.
Do you see the cause and the effect of the story that I just read? Number one, there's a challenging obstacle. And then the obstacle disappears. According to the Kabbalah that we're learning, there are no accidents. Everything has a purpose. There's no such thing as an accident. Challenges serve a purpose. The purpose is to awaken your soul's deep dedication. And once we acknowledge that, the obstacle may disappear. Because at that point, the purpose of the obstacle has been realized. If the obstacle is to test you to see what you're capable of, and you prove that you are capable, then there's no need for the obstacle. This is Netzach. Standing up strongly against whatever it is that stands in the way. Netzach is also manifested in these stories about people, and some of us included, who succeed against all odds. The quintessential Walter Mitty, from rags to riches, making it from humble beginnings kind of story. There was a classic famous rabbi from Second Temple period named Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva faced tremendous adversity his entire life. First of all, he was an ignoramus, meaning he had never learned any Torah whatsoever. He also couldn't stand religion. And at age 40, for whatever reason, he decided he wanted to start. And he was determined to study. He was determined to excel, and he ends up becoming the entire father of the entire Talmudic tradition, coming from absolutely nothing. History's full of these kind of stories.
He had a great supporter.
He had a
great supporter.
He had a great supporter, his wife.
Yeah, his wife.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for bringing that up. History's full of these kinds of stories of perseverance, overcoming adversity. Look at Abraham Lincoln, one of the greatest presidents, born into abject poverty, failed twice in business, nervous breakdown. He lost 8 elections, criticized by politicians on the other side of the aisle and from his closest friends. He never gave up.
It didn't really turn out too well for him in the end, though.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you're right. Abraham Lincoln said in the collected works of Abraham Lincoln, the probability that we may fall in the struggle ought not to deter us from support of a cause we believe to be just. It shall not deter me. Netzach says, I really want this. I can do this. Nothing will stand in my way. I have a friend who is very busy with his mission in life. He has an extraordinary mission. He's a rabbi, he's a writer, he's an intellectual. He's writing a magnum opus right now. He's busy with this. Consumes his entire life. And I happened to see him not long ago. And I said, Svi, how are you doing? And he looked at me and he said, with a blank look on his face, and he said, I have no idea. Who has time to think about things like this? I'm too busy with my mission. And that spoke volumes to me. So when we're talking about having confidence, having self-esteem, let me ask you a question. Is low self-esteem a good thing? Nobody would say, yes, low self-esteem is a good thing. Yes, it's good to be humble, but low self-esteem is not healthy. What about high self-esteem? Is high self-esteem healthy? We could argue that also high self-esteem is not healthy. It could lead to arrogance. It could lead to miscalculation. So if low self-esteem is not healthy, if high self-esteem is not healthy, where does that leave us? With no self-esteem? Yeah, that's what my friend Sri was saying. He was saying, who has time for these kind of things, these kind of questions? I am busy doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Think about your left earlobe for a moment. Until I said it, you weren't thinking about it. That's what's called a healthy earlobe. That's what's called a healthy body, something you're not thinking about. If you're thinking about any body part, it means you've got an issue with that body part.
Can I say something about that really quick?
Please do, Anya.
I work for a functional medicine doctor. He's like does like Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
And I was struggling with some anxiety yesterday. And he was telling me about some meditations. And he told me, this is the first time hearing about this, that humans are naturally supposed to, like, humans exist in like a meditative state naturally. And now we have to take time of our day to go into meditations. It doesn't have to be like sitting down or, there's many kinds, but it's exactly what you just said about like thinking about your earlobe, like you're not thinking about it. It was very interesting, and it struck me that we humans are supposed to always kind of be in this meditative state, and it's because of all these other things that we're not. So.
Oh, that's beautiful and timely. Thank you for sharing that, which also reinforces the concept that while it's true that the Torah is true, it doesn't mean that truth is not found in other disciplines, including functional medicine. So what I want to leave you with on the subject of Netzach, before we move on to Hod in the next 20 minutes, what I want to leave you with is to be focused on your life's pursuit. And when you are, you can break through any kind of barrier. And if you really want to break through the barrier, what has to accompany one is simcha, is joy. We say from the Yiddish, simcha poretz geder. Joy breaks through all barriers.
That was my father's Hebrew name, Simcha.
Simcha? Okay, there you go. So you have that in you, Cindy. Joy breaks through all barriers. Everything in the world as we know it has cause and effect. We call it mida keneged mida. We call it measure for measure. We live in a universe that God put things not on autopilot, but he created laws of nature. Therefore, we each kind of get what's commensurate with what we do. People say, I work hard and I got this as a result. And if you say to them, well, this one worked just as hard as you, then he'll say, well, yeah, but I'm smarter than you. Whatever it may be, people have it hooked up in their mind that everything they have is based on their effort. The reality is that one thing that totally disrupts that notion is joy. Because when we are joyful, we disrupt the natural order. When God, when the angel, when When heaven sees how joyful you are acting, heaven takes note and says, wow, look at the trust that he has in me. Look how happy he is, even with his peckle, even with his suitcase full of tsuras, full of problems, whatever, he's still whistling Dixie. And what does heaven do when it sees that one is exuberantly joyful? He gives more.
What?
Heaven gives more.
What?
And that's what it means that simcha pours together. That's what it means that joy breaks through all barriers. Let's move on to Hod. Hod is the fifth emotional attribute, which is behavioral. It's situated on the left. And Hod is recognizing and acknowledging that which is beyond me. Hod is the ability to have gratitude, graciousness, respect. Hod shows up as humility. It can be geared towards, directed towards a fact or towards another person. For example, there's certain people who just do. You know those people, they're doers. You tell them to do something and they just do it. You tell them to climb a mountain and they climb the mountain. You have to cut down a forest, they cut down a forest. They'll do it. They're just easygoing people. They're easy to be around. You know people like that. Maybe I exaggerated with the chopping down a forest, but we all know people like that. For them, it's not about I. It's about what needs to be done. That's what Hod is. It's a positive yielding. It's yield to a fact. This is what needs to happen. God forbid, there's a war. I need to go fight, so I'll fight. That's what's right. That's what's needed. So Hod, humility, acknowledges truth and allows you to yield to whatever the truth is. And it's absolutely crucial in our relationships. Do I acknowledge the good things that my spouse, my friend, my coworker does? Do I show gratitude? Am I willing to yield to them? Do I put my wants aside for them? And in a spiritual sense, Hod is acknowledging God. We say this, the Jew says this in his prayers every day. Modim anachnu, I gratefully acknowledge God. I acknowledge that everything I have comes from God. And with that, when you recognize that everything that you have comes from God, you have no choice but to be left with a sense of gratitude. I thank God for my blessings. This is expressed in humility. I surrender my will to God's will. I act the way God wants me to act. This is Hod. This is the humility we're talking about. If we look at text 8, we say in our prayers every day, we acknowledge that you are the Lord our God. We also, every day, when we wake up in the morning, as soon as we recognize that we are awake, before we do anything else, we say a prayer. We offer a blessing. And what is it? I offer thanks to you, living and eternal King, for you have mercifully restored my soul within me. Your faithfulness is great. I'm going to ask Walter, not that other Christians on the call don't know these things, but do you have things corresponding within your daily devotional, Walter, in terms of, is acknowledgement a significant aspect of your daily devotional?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, acknowledgement of God as being the provider of our blessings and sustenance and sustaining. Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you. I want to read to you a very special letter. This letter was written by the Rebbe, by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rebbe Menachem Mendel Schneerson, as a response to a letter that he received from one of his adherents. And I'm going to read you this letter now. You can find it in text 12 on page 157. Here's the Rebbe. In answer to your letter, in which you write of the current state of your affairs, adding that, quote, all my life no good has befallen me, close quote, and conclude with a request for a blessing for yourself, together with your wife and children, may they live. It seems that you are unaware of the contradiction in your letter. This is what the Rebbe is telling the writer of the letter.
Right.
For a man whom the Creator has provided his partner in life and has blessed them with children, to say the following, quote, all my life good has eluded me, close quote, is ingratitude in a most shocking manner. Hundreds and thousands of people who pray every day to be blessed with children and would give all they have for a single son or daughter have yet to merit it. May God bless them with a speedy fulfillment of their heart's desires, while you, who receive this blessing, seemingly without an overabundance of praying for it, you do not recognize what a treasure and joy this is, writing as you do in your letter. I'm not implying that one is supposed to struggle for a living or not enjoy perfect health. My point is that perhaps the reason for your weak health and your difficulties in earning a living is your utter failure to appreciate God's blessing to you in a far more basic matter than perfect health and abundant sustenance, the blessing of sons and daughters who follow the ways of God. When one does not recognize the explicit good bestowed from above, particularly when one's lack of recognition is so extreme that it results in statements such as you express in your letter, is it any wonder that blessings are not forthcoming from above in other matters? My hope is that these few lines will suffice to open your eyes to see your situation in its true light. And when you begin to serve God with a true and inner joy, surely God will increase his blessings also in regard to health and sustenance. I trust that you have times, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's the pertinent part of the letter. We must always acknowledge our blessings and be grateful. That's the takeaway. Acknowledgement plus gratitude equals positive action.
Can I interject something?
Please do.
And the fact that Apostle Paul, the fact that he had some kind of health problem. Those people conjecture the fact that he had bad eyesight, but whatever it was, he called it his thorn in the flesh. And he has solicited
the thorn what?
A thorn in the flesh. It was that thing that was constantly buffeting him, a severe issue, and he had prayed to God sincerely 3 times for God to remove that from him. And then finally he realized the fact that, and he coins this phrase, he said the fact that he prayed to God and God had not removed that difficulty in his life. And he said that God said to him, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast the more gladly about my weakness, so that the power of God might rest on me. Paul was saying the fact that sometimes the blessings of God is the weakness, is the difficulty, because in acceptance of that, we praise God that through that difficulty, God might be perfect manifested in his own life. I think of when Sheila had mentioned the fact that she was a war child, and the fact that in my own experience, my son committed suicide when he was 23 years old. Wonderful, absolutely fantastic individual, beautiful child. And I wonder the fact that everything I see in life is often through the lens of that heartache or that beginning that you might have in life. The devastation never leaves you, even though you have joy and acknowledgement of God. But through God's grace and his strength, his sustaining power, we see God through that has made us a more viable witness to his power. That's the reality that I live in.
Walter, that's a home run. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Very valuable. Thank you. So here's the question for you, for us. What can we do better to express our gratitude? Our gratitude towards God, our gratitude towards each other. If you come across a Torah observant Jew, if you come across any Jew that has one of these things on his head, and you say to him, "How are you?" What's the answer going to be?
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem. You ask any Jew how he is, he's going to say Baruch Hashem, which doesn't translate but means, how are you? Thank God. If he recognizes that you're not a Hebrew speaker or you're not a Jew, he's not able to say anything else. When you say, how are you? He's not capable of saying anything else other than thank God. In a practical way, this fits in with the need to acknowledge at every given moment that everything comes from God. So tonight we talked about Netzach and we talked about Hod. Netzach is like Chesed, it's like loving kindness, it's passionate, it's unyielding endurance. It's just going on, it's getting on and keep going no matter what. Hod, humility, gratitude, is like Gvura. It's disciplined, it's restrained. Because it comes from acknowledgement, it comes from gratitude. So just as the Gevura, the discipline, limits and defines the chesed, defines the love, because sometimes it's not appropriate to just love, 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 love. It's just not always the thing to do. Gevura is there to give it some limit. Because otherwise we know that too much love can be destructive. So too, the Hod, the humility, is what balances the ambition. It balances the Netzach. Tonight we talked about ambition on one side and gratitude on the other, or humility on the other. Dvar Tova, you started the call by asking about balance. You could say that Hod is the balance that keeps the Netzach in check. Yes, we have to have ambition, but we also have the humility to ground it. Bottom line is, I'm telling you that you can withstand and overcome any obstacle that's in your way. Why? Because you are created in the divine image. You possess infinite godly abilities. So we can endure anything and ultimately persevere, which sounds a little heavy. And there's more to life than just persevering. of course, but the confidence that one has when he's able to overcome a challenge, number one, gives him tremendous happiness, and number two, gives him tremendous gratitude. Next week, we're going to talk about the soul power called Yesod, which will teach us about our relationships, our love in an intimate relationship. It'll show us how to keep the home fires burning. That's for next week. We have a few minutes. Does anybody want to elaborate on anything we discussed? Ask any questions, comments?
I have a question that's semi-related. You mentioned Midrash, and every time I hear Midrash, there's a story that I find interesting, fascinating, stimulating. Is there a book of Midrash that this group is ready for? I don't know if it's above my head. I don't know what book I could get that I would understand.
Yes.
So I'm asking you.
There's a 5-volume set.
Oh, wow.
Called The Midrash Says. It's 100% in English. And I'm sure you can buy it on Amazon, or maybe you can buy one volume at a time. Why is it 5 volumes? It's one volume for each of the 5 books of Moses. All I can tell you is my next door neighbor is a Presbyterian minister.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And he has a congregation in Atlanta, and he comes to my library to borrow whatever midrash I have in English, and his entire congregation is addicted to these stories.
Wow.
Now, these are not just stories. The midrash is also Torah. It's also God's word, but it's presented allegorically. And just because it's allegorical doesn't mean that it's not true. It means that the essence is true, but sometimes we use stories to accentuate things because these concepts are so lofty that we need stories sometimes to be able to make them real for ourselves. So,
there are 2 websites. One is Sephira.com.
Why what?
The other is Sephira.com.
Yeah.
It's Sefaria.com. And then there's another one called Shabbat.com that both have the Midrash free online so you can access it.
Walter, you are on fire.
Wow.
Okay, there you go. You don't have to buy it. I'm not going to get my royalty after all. You can get it for free on Chabad.org or Sephira. Wow, Walter, I'm really impressed.
Don't be.
We're about the same age, and you know your way around the internet like I don't.
The fact that I'm just lucky that I'm following your example. But I do have one question that's really not a question to be answered, but it's I am a great fan of the Book of Job, and that in the whole discussion of all of this, equating Job's experience with these things that we talk about is an interesting puzzle to put together. So my job tonight and tomorrow is to figure out how all that works.
Is to figure out what?
Is to take the Book of Job and to incorporate what we've learned today and see how that correlates with the experience of Job in the Book of Job. And the fact that would be an interesting study indeed, and I'm going to wrestle with that a bit tonight. So,
all right, well, good luck on that. That's not for amateurs.
The fact that but it's good for putting yourself to bed at night. The fact that
I'm not sure about that. Okay, Walter, sounds good.
But no, this has been a fascinating discussion. I love Abraham Lincoln and quite familiar with the context of that quote that you gave. What a tremendous story that is.
Excellent. Good. Anyone else? Kevin, you've been awfully quiet tonight, Kevin.
Just listening.
Okay.
I have a lot to say. It's just, should I share it or there's not enough?
That's up to you. That's up to you.
Yeah, there's not enough time.
Okay, whatever it is, we'll make time if you have something to say. Otherwise, you don't have to say. No problem.
Well, since you're teaching tonight, reminds me of everything that I've been through in my life. And instead of being depressed and not wanting to be around others, I find myself in the community helping others. So in a way, that's me covering up what I have been through and seeing what someone else is going through. I understand. So instead of me being depressed all the time, I'm willful to get out and help others.
I love it. I love it. All right. If there's nothing else, I want to wish you a good week. Anybody in your life who is deficient in any area, anyone in your life who needs a blessing for good health, anybody in your life who needs a blessing for more financial sustenance, anybody in your life who needs a blessing for things to work out well for their children, anybody who needs a blessing in any area of their life, God should grant it in an open, bounteous way. And we should only know from joy in our lives. And may we say, Amen.
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 All right, everybody, have a good evening. See you next week, same bat time, same bat channel.
Thank you.
Thank
Don't
you.
forget to rent An Affair to Remember with Carrie Greer. Night, everybody.
Bye. Good night.
Good night.
Bye, Latova.